Welcome to AI and Automation in Action, where we show business leaders how to turn AI from a buzzword into measurable operational leverage. If you're serious about operational efficiency and responsible AI adoption, you're in the right place.
Well, welcome back, Hunter, to another edition of AI and Automation in Action, where we go through real-world use cases of AI and automation. So I'm excited about the automation that we're going to review today because it's one that we've struggled with internally for years, and I think a lot of organizations struggle with. And that comes down to we collect a lot of data, especially in the technology provider or the MSP industry. We collect a lot of data around the technology, the machines, the applications, devices, vendors. And while collecting that data is critical for our ability to provide service to clients, a lot of times that data can get stale. Or one of the other issues we run into is that we have data that's missing, meaning that we may have 100 or several hundred different data points that we want to collect per client, but we may not always have all those data points completed or documented. Being able to determine what's there, how long has it been since it's been updated, is it still valid, what are the items that are missing, that has always been a challenge. And it's not just specific to our industry. I think that applies to most industries, whether that's documentation data, whether that's customer data, it goes across the board.
Absolutely. And what we were able to do today was the issue that we were facing was our internal documentation. On occasion, there would be spots where there may be blank spots. So like for a vendor, they would have the vendor name, it would have the vendor website, but we would find it would only have a vendor support email and it wouldn't have a vendor phone number. That's just one example for one of our assets is what we call it. Another example would be a location. If a customer got a new location and it has the full address on the address line, but the city, state, and zip code are blank. That was some of the issues that we were facing. While all the information was there, it was just hard to read it because it was all constricted into one line. So the automation that we were able to create, leveraging the same automation platform in which we're partners with, it's pulling in all of our assets from our documentation platform. And again, those assets are layouts, if you would, that we've created. And so it nests our documentation. So again, like a phone system, passwords, locations, etc. It just organizes our documentation platform. So that is what we're pulling in, every single one of those assets from our documentation platform into this automation. And that's what's helping us initially get all of that data. From there, we are able to identify areas where there's blank spots. And then from there as well, we're able to identify when was that last updated date for that documentation. Because each time someone's going in, making a change and saving, it automatically updates the last updated date in our documentation platform. We were able to really drive this automation off of those two factors. Is it blank? And when was it updated last? If any of those two items were found and the last updated date, we are going off of 3 months. So if it hasn't been updated in 3 months, then that's something that's creating a ticket, and that's something that is notifying our team to go in, review it, and if there's a blank spot, we need to get that documentation and make sure it's staying up to date. And then that's something that's running periodically on a cron schedule, and anything that's missing is automatically identifying our team.
I think this applies to so many different industries because regardless of whether you're talking about a CRM for your marketing and customer data, whether you're talking about financial data, being able to identify gaps, things that aren't collected, or to your point, we see this all the time where a phone number may be formatted in 417-334 as opposed to 417334, or sometimes there's dots. Getting that data to where it's in a unified or uniform format is a challenge. And a lot of times that breaks a lot of software systems if it's not. And being able to have an automation to, number one, identify what are those issues in terms of data uniformity, and two, what data is missing so that we can identify where we need to capture that data. And then three, one of the biggest challenges that I know in the MSP space is if we make a documentation entry and it's what our team uses to provide support on these items day in and day out, but it hasn't been updated in 3 years, that could be a potential huge issue. That process may be different, the software may be different. And as much as we focus on documentation, it's just natural for some things to become out of date, either through automatic updates, through people getting busy, whatever the case may be. So you have to have some type of mechanism to bring awareness around that. And again, it comes down to how do you get to that type of data and how do you do it on a scheduled basis that provides you a predictable outcome. And so I think what you've built there is an excellent example of tying into multiple systems on a scheduled basis that gives you that predictability, that finds the anomalies and brings it up to the top in terms of awareness. And what I think it's enabling us to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, we now have the ability that on a scheduled basis, we're always going to have visibility into those deltas, and it's prompting someone to do something about that.
You are exactly right. It's just exactly like what we're leveraging today already internally for some of our site photos. So that was one issue that we had was, to your point, our site photos were out of date. They weren't getting updated every single time we were on site. And that was just something that we were overlooking and missing. And so now we have an automation that is firing and creating those tickets that we are able to then merge or use that as a reminder for when we're on site, we need to get site photos updated. And so all we're doing is we're just extending that functionality to our other documentation.
Absolutely. And then once we get this automation in place, like everything else that we've talked about, we can layer on more and more automations based upon the results or the actions from those results. And so it's just that building block that let's get the data, let's raise awareness, let's create action, and then build on that as we go along.
Yep, that is exactly correct.
Awesome. Well, Hunter, as always, it's great to hear the creative juices that you put into these automations and the results that it brings to our team and our clients. So thanks for sharing that automation with us. Looking forward to hearing more on our next episode.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shane. See you in the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to AI and Automation in Action. If today's conversation sparked ideas about how AI or automation could improve your operations, we'd love to continue that discussion with you. Join us next time as we showcase another real-world implementation and break down how to deploy AI responsibly and effectively. And if you want to brainstorm with our team, email us anytime at ideas@innovativeautomations.ai. Until next time.